Hi, this is Seth Mosley, and you're listening to the Full Circle Music Show, the why of the music biz. Today we've got a little something different for you. Kyle Wilson. He's a rock star in the personal development space in marketing and promotions. Was the founder of Jim Rohn International. For those of you guys who are Jim Rohn fans out there, has worked with Brian Tracy, Mark Victor Hansen, John Maxwell, and many more. Has been a part of creating over 300 intellectual properties, launched dozens of #1 books, and been a part of some of the greatest live events of all time. So why do we have him on the Full Circle Music Show? Well, marketing comes into play no matter what you're doing, especially in the music industry. You've got to know how to market yourself. You've got to know how to brand yourself. Social media is a huge thing, and the principles of marketing are the same in any industry. So I think this is an important one for all of us to hear. I learned a ton, as I always do, and it's honestly been one of my favorite ones to do so far. And at the end of the episode, we're going to talk about a phenomenal event that's coming up in Dallas, May 13th through 15th. It's the 20th anniversary of the Brian Tracy Success Mastery Academy, and I'm going to be there. I'll be there all 3 days. I'll be speaking and sharing the stage with some phenomenal speakers, and I would love it if I'd see you there. Before we jump into the show, we just wanted to say thank you so much for listening and leaving us reviews. Heading over to iTunes, leaving us good ratings and reviews helps us a ton. The show's growing every single week, and we're getting feedback from literally people all over the world. So thank you for listening and helping us continue to do what we do. And let's jump into the episode, and we're going to hear from Kyle Wilson. Here on the Full Circle Music Show, in studio with Kyle Wilson, the man, the myth, the legend. In case you haven't heard of him, you've probably heard of a guy named Jim Rohn, maybe another guy named Brian Tracy, just an icon in the personal development and marketing world. So thanks for taking the time to be here with us.
Seth, it's a pleasure. Love your studio.
It's a studio, man. We literally just finished probably a half hour before you came in. We're working in here every day, so yeah, it's good stuff.
Awesome.
So Kyle's up here with us from Dallas, Texas, and for those of you guys who don't know out there, Kyle, you want to just share a little bit of your story, maybe how you kind of the Jim Rohn Connection, talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, Seth, I grew up in a little small town and never went to college and had a little detail shop, and was just doing the deal and built it. At some point in time, I said, I need to move to a bigger city and try something different. So at 26, I moved to Dallas. And by a whole series of things you could never plan, I got a job working for a guy who would fill up seminars, and I had to cold call and go speak at companies to sell tickets for events. And, eventually that led to an opportunity to start promoting Jim Rohn. And so I started doing these little small seminars promoting Jim Rohn, and this is back 1990. And eventually I said, hey, I need to take this bigger. And I left that company and went out and started doing big events all over the country. And I would hire speakers, and I would hire Jim Rohn, hire Brian Tracy, hire Og Mandino. And then that led to, in 1993, asking Jim Rohn if we could partner together. And I started Jim Rohn International. And so that's really how it all kind of began.
That's fantastic. For those of you guys out there who don't know, because through meeting Kyle, I was actually introduced to Jim Rohn and have recently gone back and listened to about every Jim Rohn thing that I can find. He's kind of known as the world's foremost business philosopher. Is that the right way to describe it?
Yeah, a philosopher for sure, on the personal development side. And hey, that makes you different because we met, I think, less than a year ago. And the fact you've listened to Jim's stuff and you've listened to a lot of it, that's what makes you different. And, with Jim, over the years, having met tens of thousands of people that I know, I've personally turned on to Jim Rohn. He's the guy that I think people can relate to, probably more so than anyone. He just has such an ability to share truth, share it in such a profound way. It just gets across and touches people. And it was just my great honor to have those 18 years to work with him.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those of you guys listening out here, this is largely a music audience, so people are kind of like, okay, personal development, marketing, how does this sort of apply to us? And honestly, I would argue that it applies more to people in the creative community than to anybody, because for us to be creators, we have to have that come from somewhere. Where does that come from? That has to come from personal development. That has to come from living a lot of life and understanding how to tap that. Also, a big element of being in the creative industry and the music industry is marketing. And that's one thing over the past year of getting to know you, Kyle, that I've noticed that you're just brilliant with, is the marketing side. And when you were working with Jim Rohn, you were in charge of building a pretty enormous email list for him, over 1 million plus email list, which is pretty huge. Talk a little bit about that, because are email lists still important nowadays?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And, marketing's marketing. So before the internet, before email, I could go fill rooms, right, which is marketing. And then now it's an email list, and then it's social media. So whatever back in the 30s, it was newspaper, right, or classified ads, and then radio and TV and infomercials. So really, marketing's marketing. It's the same principles. It's about how to share a message, how to make it go viral, how to connect with people and things that matter to them, how to have hooks. Every great song has a hook, right?
Yeah.
Well, same thing with marketing. And, with social media, you see now all these music people who quote personal development, right? So personal development, it's truth is truth, right?
Absolutely.
Everyone that I know that's successful, they do basics and principles and philosophies, that Jim Rohn and Brian Tracy and pretty much any personal development person talks about.
Yeah, absolutely. And marketing through social media now is also something that, Kyle has been massively influential in, is making me step up my game on getting on Snapchat, on Instagram. For musicians and artists out there trying to get their brand out, do you feel like one social media strategy is better than another? Should they gravitate towards Facebook or Instagram? How do you even start with all the social media that's out there?
That's a good question. So I got on Snapchat because my kids were on Snapchat, right? And then I got to watching some marketing people and people I care about, how they market on Snapchat. And how I term it is, it's reality TV mixed with entertainment, then mixed with some tidbits, mixed with things that people care about. You can't be silly all the time, right? Sometimes you have to leave something concrete and profound. So I think Snapchat, of course, Instagram's powerful. Facebook, probably not so much for the younger generation.
Sure.
Twitter's the powerhouse. And I think really you have to be on all of them. But here's the key. Whatever you're on, take it serious, be good at it. What you don't want to do is just have other people doing all your social media and it not have heart to it, because it's the authenticness, right? It's the connecting. Social media really is about connecting. And really that's what marketing is. It's heart and soul in technology. It's mixing technology with connection, with authenticity. And social media really brings it fully out. So, being able to do it in such a way that, you can really do it the right way, right? I think it's more important to be great at one or two things than to just have other people doing all your stuff.
Sure.
But YouTube, right? I didn't even mention YouTube. That's huge for musicians. Yeah. And a lot of great stories behind YouTube.
Yeah, absolutely. And so Kyle, for those of you guys who don't know, has a mastermind group in Dallas, which was how we initially connected. We had a mutual friend, Andrew, who was a former William Morris talent agent, for those of you guys out there who know what that is. He introduced us, and somehow we were talking about this band Switchfoot, and I
started with the Foo Fighters.
Okay, Foo Fighters.
Because I was, Andrew and I and Robert Helms were going to the Foo Fighters.
Yeah.
And Phil Collin, actually, of Def Leppard, was playing at Robert's event, and Phil Collin had just done a mastermind at my house. We're really good friends, and people say, Def Leppard, it's a 70s or 80s band. Well, actually, they're one of 5 bands that sold 100 million albums. So just an amazing, influential band, and Phil's an amazing guy.
Yeah.
And I think it was that conversation. And we were walking away, and I said, by the way, my favorite band's actually Switchfoot.
Yeah.
Right? And you just produced a song with John.
Yeah. Which, what are the chances? It was just kind of a, you use the word serendipitous moment. But yeah, John was at our house the week before. We had produced a single for him off his latest record. I mean, he's one of the most prolific songwriters in our entire industry, and just so happened we had just worked with him. You were talking about Switchfoot, so that was just a really interesting connection that kind of went all back to music. So kind of a little tie-in there.
And actually 2 months later, you invited me to come to Nashville.
Yeah.
And I met John. We went to see him play.
Yeah.
And I got to interview him on Periscope, another social media
there you go.
tool.
Yeah.
And that was really meaningful to me. And I think when you mentioned John, you saw how I lit up, right?
Yes.
And again, it's that connection.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about Switchfoot is the heart and soul.
Yeah.
So again, back to that heart and soul.
Yeah.
You know, Jim Rohn was heart and soul. He was authentic. It was the real deal.
Yeah.
And then you got to say, how do I get that message out to people?
Yeah, absolutely.
You did ask me about email, and I want to go back to that because I really did not answer the question. I apologize.
Sure.
So here's one of the keys with email. Email is not dead. Email is really one of the few things where you actually own the list. You don't own the list on Facebook. You don't own the list on Twitter. If anyone's ever heard of MySpace, let that be a lesson. You don't own the list. There are people that had 1 million followers on MySpace and it went away. There are people on Instagram with huge amount of followers that can actually just be, their account can be closed for all kinds of reasons. And really there's not a lot of recourse. So one of the jobs with all your social media platforms is to somehow convert those people to a way that you do own them. And email is one of the few ways you own them. And then email is probably the thing that converts the best on actually making sales.
Sure.
So there's a lot of people that say, well, my email doesn't work. I send out an email blast, it doesn't work. Well, same thing with social media. If you don't do it very often, it's not going to work. Anything you do is about building a relationship, building consistency, repetition. So the only reason it doesn't work is you've not actually built the tribe. You've not communicated with the tribe. Same reason your Snapchat or your Periscope or your Twitter's not working. It's just because you haven't put in the repetition and the thought. But the minute you do, it will work.
Absolutely. Well, that's totally applicable because to tie it back into our music discussion, when an artist goes and sends their record, let's just talk about an independent artist, sends their record to a record label and says, hey, here's our music. The first thing the label's going to ask is, okay, what's your story? Where is your tribe? What's your following? Do you have a list? What's your social proof like in terms of YouTube channel, Instagram, Facebook? And, what are you selling on your own? What are you doing on your own? So for an artist out there who maybe can create great music but has no clue, because there's often a disconnect that I find in the music industry of people who are creatives and then marketers. Rarely are they both.
Right.
So how does a creative person who's making their music and doing what they're doing start to build their tribe?
I think it's true in music, it's true in any kind of entertainment, it's true in Hollywood, in acting, it's true in the speaker world. The best marketers tend to be the best speakers, the best musicians. In other words, you have to have a clue, you have to be good at it. Rarely is someone just discovered, right, that doesn't have some way to market or to connect. Jerry Seinfeld would write a joke every single day, right? They have disciplines that most people don't have, and included in those disciplines is how do I connect, how do I network, how do I get my message out? And I do think it is a fair question for a producer, for a record label to say, how many YouTube videos, how many hits, how much are you hustling, right? Are you getting, what are you making happen? Because if you don't have that going on already, right, they're going to have to do all the work. And in reality, they know it's a partnership, right?
Absolutely.
I cannot make a speaker. It has to be a combination of their desire, not just their gift, but their own willingness to get out there and put themselves out there and, to take those risks. Now, once you become in demand, you can become less markety, right? You don't have to do all those things that you do in the beginning. But it's like anything else, right?
Yeah.
We're all a little bit uncomfortable having to say, hey, look how great I am, right? Put ourselves out there. But it's just part of the deal.
Yeah.
And eventually, once you hit those numbers, you don't have to. Other people will do it for you.
Sure. And so let's just go strip it back to the very basics and this is more of a question of me asking for myself, because I feel like I've been learning that the hard way over the last 3 years that, yeah, you've got to be a marketer no matter what you're doing. So at the bare bones level, what is marketing?
It's a good question. I guess it's realizing there has to be someone that wants what you want, what you have, right?
Yeah.
So I have to say, is there someone that wants to buy what I have? And then how do I make it appealing enough for them to want it?
Yeah.
Now, that's not a definition I've ever had before. You asked me the question, that's what comes to my mind is, first of all, there has to be a need. Yeah. There has to be a problem I'm solving, and I have to have an effective way to get that message out.
Yeah.
Then ultimately, the better the product, the better the marketing is going to actually be because, right, at the end of the day, all that hard work to acquire a customer, to acquire a platform is how it multiplies. That's where you get the advocates, and the advocates then help really spread the message.
Sure.
So, putting out good stuff is actually part of marketing, but, and it's making it easy for people, right? If you're out there asking people to help you, whether it's your fans, whether it's, whoever it is, making it easy, giving them the tools that they need. If you're on social media and you're trying to build a following, you got to go like stuff. You have to comment on stuff, right? You have to put good stuff out that people would want to get behind. And here's the keys, being a student.
Yeah.
Go study what other people are doing that's working, right?
Sure. So in the marketing space, I mean, who are some of those guys that I can follow? I just got turned on to Gary Vaynerchuk. I know he's a big one. Is there anybody else that we should kind of be aware of and kind of pattern what they're doing, or is it just make your own destiny and do it?
Yeah, so quite a few of the marketers are kind of out there, and I'm not necessarily endorsing them on all levels.
Sure.
Right? So, but, Ty Lopez, he's a little bit entertaining to me because he's got the compound in Beverly Hills. He's got the 15 models following him around. He's got the basketball court.
Yeah.
He's doing all this entertainment stuff, but then he's talking about the books he's reading. He's talking about the disciplines. He's mixing in reality TV with entertainment with some good ideas and to help get his message across. There's a book called Contagious, and it talks about for an idea to really get through and to stick, you have to stimulate dopamine in somebody's brain, right? So finding ways to catch people in such a way, that's where humor is so powerful. You can make people laugh.
Yeah.
So it'd be like, so Ty's entertaining. So I follow him on Snapchat. I prefer him on Snapchat than on Instagram or on Facebook.
Wow.
So I'm getting all these little snaps and I can skip through it, right? If it's it's just wasting my time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just say, hey, follow a lot of people and see what works. And here's the key. See what doesn't work. There's some other people I follow and I'm like, okay, that's not good.
Yeah.
That's not, to me at least, it's not appealing to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I think, a lot of people go in and roll in all this real high price stuff. I think sometimes you can go buy lower level stuff from a lot of different people and see how they market too.
Sure.
That's something I like to see. I like to see, okay, if I go buy this product, what is their follow-up with email? How do they message me? How do they, what are they doing? What are their videos? What are their upsells? And I don't want to get too complicated in those type of things. What are their funnels?
Sure.
But you can spend $49 and get a lot of information just on how they do everything they're doing and say, does that appeal to me?
Sure.
Right? Does that work for me? And then take those ideas and apply them to what you do.
Yeah. Let's shift gears for a second and talk about a guy named Brian Tracy. So you started working with this guy not too long after Jim Rohn. You told a pretty powerful story last time I was down in Dallas about how that whole thing came together, and then 20 years later, something is happening surrounding Brian Tracy.
Yeah, so I would do these 2-day or these events all over the country with Jim Rohn and Brian Tracy, and I've worked with Brian 25 years. Well, in 1996, he and I said, let's do a big 2-day type of event, and we came up with something called the Success Mastery Academy, and it was like 16 of the most relevant topics you could imagine: setting goals, personal development, leadership, selling, communication, financial independence. Really one of the most powerful programs I think that's ever been created. Definitely that Brian ever created. And he says to this day it's his favorite program. And we did those events all over the country. And something I was really proud of. And a couple of months ago, I was in San Diego, and I went to see Brian, and we hung out a little bit. And out of nowhere, it occurred to me, I said, Brian, let's do a 20-year anniversary of this Success Mastery Academy.
Yeah.
So that's what we're going to do. We're going to do it in May, May 13th through 15th, and we have some special guests. We have not only Brian doing he's speaking all 3 days, but we have Darren Hardy. A lot of people might know Darren from the Compound Effect, former publisher of Success Magazine, one of my 20-year really good friends. We have Vic Johnson, one of the smartest marketing guys I know. Vic has a lot of incredible marketing programs. He's a guy I would say go follow.
Sure.
We have one of my good friends, Ron White, the U.S. memory champion, two-time U.S. memory champion, and he's going to share some. And we have you. Seth Mosley's going to join us. So I'm really excited about you being part of it. And we have some other really amazing people that are going to be part of that 3-day event.
Sure. I saw the first poster for it, and I was kind of just skimming through, okay, who are, some of the quote-unquote openers and who are the headliners. To me, my story is I'd go, and it would be worth all of the money in the world for me to pay just to go see the openers. And then you've got Brian Tracy.
Right.
And you've got Vic Johnson and these guys. But I was greatly impacted by Robert Helms, who's another one of the guys that's going to be there. And Erica Dela Cruz is fantastic.
Right. A millennial, 25-year-old
Yeah.
girl who, now again, I've learned a lot from Erica. She's 25. She's in Hollywood. And just watching what you have to do when you're in Hollywood to make it, as an actress, as a host. She hosts San Diego Fashion Week. She does a lot, but she is out marketing, out serving, giving, showing up. A big part, and we know this, your audience knows this, you have a sophisticated audience because they're listening to you. That already says, okay, they're eager. Jim Rohn says, be a student, always be searching.
Yeah.
Quoting the Bible, he says, if you search, you'll find, but rarely does a good idea interrupt you, right?
Yeah.
She's out knocking on doors and hustling. And so that was just a great insight to me of knowing what it really takes. And that's what works. And so we have 2 or 3 millennials that will be speaking. We got one of the top golf coaches in the world, Nick Bradley, who will be talking about the mental toughness of success. We got really some great peeps, and it'll be a
and
really
one of the
powerful
topics,
3 days.
One of the big focuses is crushing the stage, right?
Yeah, Delatore McNeil. Thanks for saying that. So Delatore was one of the youngest speakers to ever make it to the top certification of National Speakers Association. And he had a reality TV show that was amazing, teaching people how to speak and how to build a speaking business. So he's one of the guys.
Yeah. And if you guys are listening out there and you're musicians, you're singers, you're songwriters, that right there is going to be worth it for you.
True.
How do you crush the stage? How do you communicate effectively? How do you communicate powerfully? But my sell is come, and the openers alone will be worth the investment of coming. So when is that event? Where is it? Where can we find information about it?
Yeah, it's May 13 through 15. It's in Dallas, Texas. And they can go to BrianTracy3dayevent.com.
Perfect.
BrianTracy3dayevent.com. And guess what? He hadn't said it, but I'm going to put him on the spot. If you come, you'll get to hang out with Seth.
That's very true.
So just say, hey, go find him. Here's the thing. Over 3 days, every speaker that speaks, you'll have access to.
Yep.
You're going to shake every hand. You're going to take every picture. You're going to ask every question. That's the incredible thing about 3 days is you really get to hang out.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you, Seth, one of the nicest guys, if you've not met him, he'll be there all 3 days. He's not going to be hiding in a corner.
No.
We have no green room for this. The speakers are all going to be out in the audience with everyone else taking notes because it's going to be an incredible event. So come to the event of the year, but also you get to hang out with Seth.
Yeah. Well,
now that's pretty cool.
I will be there. Honestly, that's kind of the joy of these type of events, and Kyle's been doing them for years and is a master at creating incredible, impactful groups of people. But honestly, it's those interactions, it's the one-on-one conversations, and I'll be there. I'd love to talk to you guys if you want to come out. But Kyle, any kind of closing thoughts you want to leave our listeners with?
Yeah, but and let me say this. I think for the event, we'll give them a really special price.
Yeah.
I don't want to scare anyone off, but
Sure.
I think it's so attractive. I am going to say the price.
Yeah, sure.
For 3 whole days, that type of lineup,
Yeah.
Multiple 6 figures of fees of people speaking. It's at a really nice hotel. Is only $497. Now that's about to go away. That's the early bird. So go jump on it before that price goes away.
Sure.
And you can actually bring a couple of guests for only $297 each.
There you go.
So it sounds a little too cheap.
Yeah.
But we want people there. Closing words. It really gets down to desire. Everything gets down to how bad do you want it. It gets down to having role models, people that inspire you. One of the great benefit of upping your associations is how that expands your thinking. Someone says, how do I become more disciplined? Best way, get around other disciplined people. You become like the people you're around. So if you're ambitious, if you want to do better, keep doing the best you can to get around role models, to get around mentors, to get around people that inspire you. Talking about music, think of all the pockets of music. I was thinking about this on the plane ride up. Whether it was in Seattle or, Memphis or, when the Beatles and Rolling Stones. Just think of all these pockets you'll find out, wow, almost every big-time musician or singer, they had other friends, too, that were big, that came up and were big, because you get around people that push you, inspire you, and osmosis, really, synergy that happens, and you'll see greatness come in pockets at different times. So get around other people. Make it your mission to be hungry. And how much have you seen that happen, Seth, where people are hungry and they say, I want to learn from you, or I want to, keep aspiring to play up.
Yeah.
Have you seen that be a difference maker?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm a big proponent of the saying that you're the average of the 5 people you associate with the most. And, you want to upgrade your success level, upgrade your friends. And honestly, to keep harping on just the impactfulness of what this event's going to be, you might not even know where to start with, okay, where do I find, I'm from a small town in Nebraska, where do I find people that are playing at a high level? Well, here you go. This is
Right.
where you find them. They come to these type of things because they are perpetual learners, like Kyle was saying. So I'm looking forward to every second of it. So
Awesome.
go to BrianTracy3dayevent.com, and that's May 13th through 15th.
Yes.
Dallas, Texas.
Yes.
So Kyle Wilson, thanks for being on the show.
Seth, my pleasure. Thanks so much.
You've been listening to the Full Circle Music Show, the why of the music biz. If you haven't got your entry in yet, head over to musiccontest.co. $15,000 worth of prizes, including a recording and songwriting session with us. Produced by Full Circle Music Company with editing help from Jericho Scroggins and Kaylee Ingram. Head over to iTunes, leave us a good rating and a good review. Check us out at fullcirclemusic.org, and we'll see you next week.